Welcome, everybody, to Paying Radio. Tonight is March 11th, 2018. It's Sunday night. It's 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, and 2 a.m. for our friends over in Great Britain that are listening to Paying Radio. Got the itch to come back on tonight, you know. I mean, I haven't been on the radio a lot lately. Did the show last week with Marilyn and Dick Carlson. That was a great show, talking about their research all over Oklahoma on UFOs, Bigfoot, and archaeological digs, fun stuff like that. But tonight I thought I'd jump on too. We're going to have on guest Allison Jornlin in a second here, talk about some updates and news on a possible Mothman sighting in Chicago. So it's kind of a quick news update. I was doing some office work today, and she came across live on Facebook, and she did a great show a few weeks back with Jennifer and Kevin Malik on Paranormal Universe, also heard on Inception Radio Network Friday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. I thought I could grab her. She's going to be on in a sec with me, talk about her research a little bit, and talk about this news, because there's been a lot of stuff going on around the Chicagoland area the last several months with a flying entity. She's not denying her, and she's doing the research. She's not going to say there's one. She's very skeptical. I like her research approach. But before we talk to her, I'm going to go into different ways to listen to Inception Radio Network. Of course, you can like us on the app. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at I_R_N. We're on iHeartRadio. We just are entered Spotify, so download us there. We're on TuneIn, Stitcher, Roku, and if you don't have a smartphone and you want to listen to us, call in at 712-770-8888. And this show is sponsored by LenoraOrganics.com. It's minimal skincare made simple and with no artificial ingredients, just nature, so check them out. So I'm going to get to our guest bio here. Allison Jornlin is a recipient of the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference's 2016 Wisconsin Researcher of the Year Award. Allison Jornlin has also been investigating hauntings and other strange phenomena for over 20 years. Inspired by Chicago's Richard Crowe, who kickstarted the U.S. ghost tourism in 1973, she developed Milwaukee's first haunted history tour in 2008. Since then, Allison had led numerous haunted history tours and presented talks on a variety of 14 topics: poltergeists, UFOs, cryptid, demonic possessions, etc. Allison has been featured on TV, radio, and in print, and has contributed research to books, articles, podcasts. She frequently works with paranormal teams to investigate historical buildings, providing witness interviews and arch-rival research to facilitate their efforts. Well, Allison, thanks for coming on in such short notice.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. You know, we'll do a full show down the road, too, where we can get you on and dig deeper into your research. But I was on Facebook a little earlier today, and I came across you live in Chicago there in the streets. So did you end up getting a report? Would you want to tell our listeners a little what happened? Yeah,
so if your listeners may not know, I have a YouTube channel, and you can visit it right now at youtube.com/Mothman. And I started this YouTube channel back in summer, this past summer of 2017, because there were so many sightings being reported of a Mothman type creature, a flying humanoid seen in the Chicagoland area. And I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so it's a trek for me, but it's not undoable. I mean, it's certainly something that's within the realm of possibility. And I'm like, if I consider myself a Fortean researcher, then I better get my boots on the ground and see what I can see. So I started going to all the different sightings that were reported to Lon Strickler of the Phantoms and Monsters blog. And at that time, he had a really nice map explaining, where the different sightings were reported. And so I went to each of the different sites and then would read the report, giving him credit and giving any of the other researchers on it credit as well every single time. But then also giving people, more of a view of each of the locations. So it's not just description that you read, but you really can see, hey, where was this thing sighted? And what can I determine from walking in the footsteps of the witnesses? So that's what I started doing back in summer of 2017, because the reports actually started in April. They came to light initially in April of 2017, and but there were reports going back all the way up to February of 2017, and I was able to go to all 60 of the most recent reported sightings and share them on Facebook Live, and then upload what I was able to see on youtube.com/Mothman. Now, unfortunately, what I discovered is there are discrepancies in a lot of the reports where the witness will report one thing, and then you check into some of the details that are provided by going to the site and maybe checking also on the weather data and phases of the moon and stuff like that, and you find out that, hey, these things aren't matching up. So that's what started my problem. And I'm really sorry to have to do that, because I was really enamored with the Phantoms and Monsters blog, and I was really just elated when I started doing the videos, and then Lon Strickler included them on his map. So every sighting that would come up, when I would go make a video, I would let him know, and then he'd just put it on his map. Wow. So that was really great, because at one point 500,000 people had viewed that map. So I'm sure it's in excess of that. But now that map is gone, and Lon Strickler's really trying to clamp down on the details that he's providing. And this is largely because I have expressed skepticism, but not only me, a number of other wonderful researchers as well have been jumping on it, because, hey, we live close to Chicago or in Chicago. And if something this strange is going on to the point of where you have in excess of 60 reports, you can't expect local researchers not to want to look into this. Oh, yeah. And, that's what we're doing. I mean, that's what I thought we were supposed to be doing. But, when our ideas about what was going on didn't match up with his, well, that led to some flack. And now on his website he accuses people. He says any use of the witness information, which includes any attempt to contact a witness or persons involved in an event, is strictly prohibited without the written consent of Phantoms and Monsters and or its associates. So he took down his map so that he wouldn't have to divulge, or that he wouldn't give too much information so that people can follow up on the claims. And then he puts threatening messages like that. There's also another one where he says that there's a certain code of fair use, and that if you are attempting to follow up on these things, well, you don't have the right to do that. Which is not true. Right. I mean, paranormal. The paranormal belongs to everyone.
It sure does. Yes.
Yeah. And so I just, what I began again today is started. My last one I did. Ooh, that was a really cold one that I did back in. I think it was early January, where I was following up on one of the latest reports. And so then I just started getting back into it today, where there's a few new reports. And so I went to the site of a report on February 2nd, which occurred February 2nd on of 2018. And so that's where I went today. So it is, of course, my intention to follow up on all of these that I can. And if any witness wants to come forward, well, I encourage them to do so. Yes, I am going to check what you say against the facts.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that I'm out to get you. It just means that, you know, I can't say that all of these accounts are genuine if there's certain facts, basic facts, that don't match up. And I think, you know, that's not to say that I don't respect witnesses. I certainly do, and I understand how difficult it is to be a witness because I've had my own sightings of strange things, and it's really hard to talk to people about them. But once again, I mean, if what you're telling me does not match up with reality, then I can't stand by what you're saying. And I don't think that's an insult.
Right. Allison, is there a place that people can contact you if they see anything strange around that area? Do you have an email or a hotline?
Yeah, certainly. You can actually reach me online at milwaukeeghosts.com. And I do have a hotline as well. I'm a Fortean researcher, so if you just type in the phone number 414-Fortean, Fortean, you will get me.
Nice.
So that should be easy for people to remember. And actually, I don't remember the numbers of the phone number myself. So if you just type in 414-Fortean, Fortean, you'll get me. And I'm just putting it out there because I think witnesses have a right to decide who they talk to. If they talk to Lon Strickler initially because his blog is quite popular, I mean, that doesn't mean they have to stop there. I mean, you're not going to get in trouble by sharing your story. So don't feel like this latest controversy will do anything to you legally because, you know, any attempt to, you know, try to claim witness data for yourself is just bunk, and it doesn't. I don't think it serves the paranormal community.
No, there's no paranormal unity there, and you know, there's nothing like a second opinion. We do it for doctors all the time, you know. Absolutely, and that's all that I'm trying to do, and other researchers are trying to do. And my point is not, you know, I'm not going out of my way to discredit witnesses, you know, but what you have to do is do due diligence is what it is. Because here's the thing. It's not that I feel that all the Chicago Mothman reports are bunk. I'm not saying that. Because I know, you know, from people in my own family that there have been strange flying creatures sighted in local skies. And I reported on some of these cases, you know, way back in 2002. Actually, you know, the reports happened, you know, they preceded 2002, but they were picked up by Loren Coleman in his earliest book about the Mothman at that time when the Mothman movie, when Richard Gere came out, Loren published a book, and he has one of the accounts of a pterodactyl type creature that's been seen repeatedly in Wisconsin, and I was able to interview a few of the witnesses to that, and then subsequently even.
What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS on an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
In 2006, around the La Crosse area, there were sightings.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not saying that strange things aren't sighted. And, you know, there's just, when you go back into folklore and into, like Native American belief, for example, the Thunderbird comes into play. And this is what perhaps people are citing. You know, the Thunderbird is something that was reported by different nations, throughout Illinois and Wisconsin. So these First Nations people have had experiences like this, going back for, hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not saying that nothing strange is cited, but what I am saying is if you just accept anybody that calls in and just take their reports as gospel and start and put them up on your blog without doing any checking, I think you're not serving the paranormal community, because you are muddying the waters. And anybody that is trying to cover up what is happening could easily do so, because if, there is so much noise to signal ratio, then you're not going to be able to tell what is authentic. I mean, this is how disinformation and misinformation policies by government agencies, for example, this is how they work, by just filling the field with all kinds of nonsense. And then, you can't tell what's real and what's made up. Right. So that's why I'm like, dude, I mean, we have to come together on this, don't we? We have to be researchers, and we have to, if something doesn't smell right and the facts don't match up, we can't stand behind it. We have to say, we at least have to, put it up there with some caveats to people. And that's not what's happening. And we can't shut down our research because, we want to hold on to it as our thing. The Chicago Mothman does not belong to Len Strickler or any other researcher, and especially not to somebody who hasn't been to any of the sites and lives in Pennsylvania.
Right. A long time ago, I had Jeff Wamsley on my show. If you remember him from, he ran, I think, the museum out in Virginia there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He talked about the Mothman, the original Mothman and stuff, and did some research on it. But that was like when I was pretty raw on the radio and brand new. But he did a great show, and it was awesome. And you're right about researching too. I have a research team in Wisconsin. We do the UFOs, and we're all former MUFON people. MUFON doesn't own the skies. Anybody can research. Anybody can do their research. I mean, it isn't just MUFON you can report to. There's other small entities, but, we need to work together with the big ones too,
right,
as a team.
And I couldn't agree more. And one of the people that's been very skeptical of the Chicago Mothman sightings is Sam Moranto, who is the director of Illinois MUFON. And he's one of the people that I've talked to about this, and he's done a lot of digging into all of these different cases. And yeah, I mean, why do you think we are doing this? Is because we care about the paranormal. We are not trying to be cynics. That is not what a skeptic does. I mean, there are people who they just reject these kind of phenomena out of hand. I'm not one of those people. And either is Sam Moranto. We're people that know that extraordinary things do happen and that they're an important part of human experience. But we also know there's hoaxers, and there are people trying to discredit the whole field. We know that cynics have done so, like James Randi. I mean, he has perpetrated hoaxes on purpose to make researchers in the field look bad. And so we can't have paranormal investigators out there who are not doing paranormal investigation. If you want to investigate, then investigate. Don't just want to believe so much that you put anything out there. I mean, that's not what we want. I mean, that's a conflict of interest. And if you have a blog, for example, you need content, but I just think you got to be a little bit more discriminating about what you take.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And some people become so money focused, money motivated, thinking they're going to make thousands off the paranormal, and that just does not happen. It's just not what it's
right.
about.
You're not in this, I'm a teacher as well, and you don't go into teaching to be rich and famous, and you don't do paranormal investigation because you want to be rich and famous. So I think there's a conflict of interest here that's occurring, and I do want to talk about it. I do want to draw people's attention to it. That's why, even though I've been attacked, by researchers, that I've mentioned, and those in league with certain researchers, I'm going to keep talking, because I think if you shut it down, that's draconian. That is not leading to anything positive. You might not like what I say, but I think you probably support my right to say it, so that we can have a diversity of opinions on these things. So, I'm excited that these Mothman sightings have continued. The latest one, it was February 2nd in 2018, and that's the one I did today. And now there are even more recent ones that are occurring in and near Wisconsin. So I'm excited about visiting those locations, because Wisconsin is my turf. And like I said, any other researcher is welcome here to corroborate or to deny. You got to be open to that. You have to be open to other people's perspectives. And if something I'm saying does not match up, then hold me accountable. That's what we need to do for each other, and it's really, really hard, but it's so important. Right.
So with these latest reports, what are you seeing? What is there anything in common between the reports at all?
You mean overall?
Overall, let's just go overall. Yeah, anything in common?
Well, the way the creature is described is pretty much consistent, as it's a thin, lanky figure that's about 6 to 6.5, maybe 7 feet tall, and has about a 10-foot wingspan. And some people report like glowing red eyes that are very prominent. Some people have a feeling of fear associated with their sighting, or like extreme dread. So, a lot of these things are similar to the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant from 1967 to 1966 to 1967. There are some that are completely don't seem to be a Mothman. There are reports of people just seeing red lights, or seeing more of a craft, and that's been lumped in with Mothman. Just to kind of round out the reports, which I think you got to watch that too. I mean, if you're having a different type of a phenomena, you can't just be like, oh, everything's flying humanoid now, and or everything's Mothman, because one of the things that was reported was a green insectoid creature. So, I'm not sure what is related here and what isn't, and I think that's kind of the problem. And one of the other commonalities is that in a lot of the accounts, the prose, the text, is very creative writing-esque. I mean, it's and that's alarming, because if you read MUFON reports, which I'm sure you have, or reports from the National UFO Reporting Center, these reports are all over the place, and it's not like somebody's trying to do a project here. They're not trying to describe things like a creative writer would. And I think some of this might be because Lon Strickler admitted that he rewrites the reports to make them more interesting to the reader.
Oh my gosh.
And he admitted that to Madeline Kate from the video podcast Measuring the Circle. And so I understand, he's just trying to write it in a way that's engaging. But I think that's a slippery slope there, where, I mean, I think the raw reports followed up with, and I'm sure he's doing this, followed up with, calling and, getting a little bit more detail can help. But yeah, a lot of these stories, they seem so implausible because of the way that they're written, and they're written in a very like movie trope style, where somebody says they saw the Mothman fly up and shoot up like a rocketeer or something like that, and then be silhouetted in the full moon. And unfortunately, when the full moon is reported in these reports, hey, that night when you said you saw that, there wasn't a full moon.
There you go. Yeah.
So, right. I mean, so that's what we're running into with most of these reports. I'd really like to see these pared down to the ones that really seem the most authentic. I mean, I think that would help us a lot to determine, what is reality and what isn't.
And so today you were live. What was with the latest report? Any significant findings? Or
Well, I didn't find any discrepancies in today's report. The only problem with today's report that I found, as in most of the Chicagoland reports, is that they come from very, very populated areas where it's like, this one that I did today was right next to YMCA, the West Cook YMCA, which is in Forest Park, Illinois. And the three witnesses claimed that they were looking across the street, and it's not a wide street, and it's very residential in that area. So you got the YMCA, and you got apartment buildings like everywhere. So it just didn't seem plausible that there could be such a huge creature, 6.5 feet tall, with these prominent glowing eyes and a 10-foot wingspan. And this one, he didn't just jump into the sky like most of that. This is the only discrepancy I see here. Like most of them, the reports say that he kind of like rocketed into the sky or like leapt into the sky, and like in one fell swoop. And this one, it sounds like it took him a while to get those wings powered up to get off the ground. So that's a little bit of a difference in the report. But it's like the La Crosse sightings or some of the other sightings where I've been able to talk to witnesses in the past with the Thunderbird sightings. They were in more rural areas where you might expect that, hey, if somebody sees something, it might just be a handful of people. Where in this circumstance, in like probably 99% of the reports from the Chicagoland area, there are people everywhere. You are underfoot constantly. And so it just seems hard to believe that nobody else, would have seen it at the time.
Right.
You'd think there would be much more of a fervor in the newspapers if something of this magnitude was really going on in such an overwhelmingly populated area.
Well, that is different that you did have three witnesses. Hopefully they're not coming together as a like let's do this and let's all do the same story. But you just never know. Yeah. It's hard to know. I mean, that's the difficulty that we face, and that's why we really have to work together on this. We got a question in chat quick too here. If Mothman is a harbinger of upcoming disaster, wouldn't that associate it with populous areas?
Well, not as populous as Chicago. When the big one happened in 67, to the 66 to 67. I mean, that's Point Pleasant, West Virginia. That is a very small area compared to Chicago. And if you're in Chicago,
What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS and an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
I mean, some of these sightings, like right on the Miracle Mile, right on the lakefront there, I mean, all hours of night, there's people like, you can hardly do a video because I've done so many videos there. You can hardly do a video because you're trying to frame up your shot and like everybody's in it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. And who knows? I mean, if a few months down the road there's a disaster, I'm sure that people will try to connect it. I'm not sure if it is connected in this case, but I think there's a big difference between Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Chicago, Illinois.
Well, we're down to our last few minutes. Allison, if you ever want to come on and share any research or share any updates on the network here, we'd be glad to have you anytime to get the word. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. You're a fellow cheesehead, and we've got some pretty cool people in this state. We have you, and we have who is the werewolf lady? I forget her name. It's
Linda Godfrey.
Linda Godfrey,
yes,
and then you got
great friend.
Yeah, and you got Mary Sutherland that does she does the archaeological stuff, and then you got the Malex that are in the middle of the state. There's a lot of neat people doing some good research in this state.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so, if you let our listeners know where they can contact you, if they see anything in the skies in Wisconsin, the Chicagoland, or even anywhere in the U.S., I mean, give them your info, your YouTube website, just give out that information.
Yeah. All right. You can view any of my videos on the local Mothman sightings, as well as forums with other researchers on this, and other haunted road trips that I've done around the country, as well as paranormal interviews with people around the world. You can find those at youtube.com/Mothman. You can also find me at MilwaukeeGhosts.com, OtherSidePodcast.com, where we do a weekly podcast. And of course, I have an upcoming paranormal conference in Hawaii in July at HawaiiParacon.com as well.
Wow, you are busy.
That's true.
Well, I suppose if you're teaching, you get the summer off, so you can just go to Hawaii and do a Paracon. Why not, right?
Yes, why not?
Okay, well, Allison, thanks for coming on tonight, and on such short notice, it's nice to I strive to have great guests on, but it's special. It's special to me when we have a Wisconsinite that does some good research too, and I strive for getting people on from our home state too. That's part of my show, and trying to get anybody on that's really doing some good work in the state. And I appreciate your hard work, and I'm sure our listeners do too. And you can know where to contact her. She gave you all her information, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, and good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. It's only a half-hour show, but next week we'll be on the full hour and a half. Talk to you soon.
What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS and an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details.